Hey, Aldona. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce your name, so forgive me on that. I want to get back to you on your post. I think it's a really well done engagement of the text that we had to read. Uh, two comments I wanted to make. The first one, that the Code of Ethics from the Catholic Psychotherapy Association intrigues me, is that you mentioned the subject of spiritual growth. And I'm not familiar with the Catholic Psychotherapy Association, but I think the idea of spiritual growth as a ethical dynamic is really important. And that shifts me over to the subject in your last paragraph where you mentioned about the unique approach to believers who choose to measure and be guided by the Holy Spirit as they guide conflict through leadership opportunities. Wasn't really sure what you meant by that, but I think that John the Apostle kind of makes it clear that we're led and guided by the Holy Spirit into all truth. And so the truth sanctifies us, right? It sets us apart from the world. So we're led by the Holy Spirit into those leadership conflicts, I think. And that truth sanctifies it. You can see that brilliantly in the life of Peter, right? There's this continual sanctification process that's happening there. As in his leadership, he's being confronted with issues as he's a disciple of Christ. So I think that's a really profound and kind of not understood construct. When you come into the idea of ethical systems and you're using that to measure ourselves, I think there for a Christian there's a problem there, because I think that the ethical dynamic that we're called to is a little bit higher and maybe a little bit simpler than most ethical practices given to professions, right? Like the Hippocratic Oath, etc. Do no harm. Okay, the ethical principles that I think Jesus teach is very clear. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What that does is put you in a position of looking from a lens that's different than yourself. You have to kind of come out of yourself for a second and look through the lens of how another person would want to be treated. And as soon as you do that, you kind of alleviate the self-motive. And you can bring your consciousness and bring it into the frame of reference of how somebody else would like to be treated. So, for example, it's really problematic for me when I have an anticipation of a kind of a relationship with somebody in a therapeutic context, and that relationship changes. So they go from my counselor to my friend. Unless that dual role is well disclosed and discussed, it creates confusion for me. And I need to have that role defined if I'm going into a therapeutic relationship. That's what I want. That's what I know other people want. It's not that complicated. And I think we sometimes try to deal with the rational parameters of a particular trade, where universally, I think if we, do unto others as we'd have them do unto us, there's a framework there that resolves 9/10 of ethical issues. So, having said that, putting the two things together, I think that there's a dynamic of being led by the Holy Spirit that puts us into these confrontations with, our own limitations. And we get sanctified in the process of coming into the truth and the understanding that the Holy Spirit provides for us. As John says, the Holy Spirit will lead and guide you into all truth. So I really want to applaud your paper. I think it has a depth to it that I think is really needed. And I think you probably make an excellent Christian counselor. So if you have any openings, let me know. I really appreciate the integrity that I hear and see in your writing. Thanks.